So essentially today's lesson is on optimization. Okay, there will be an accompanying exercise which is already uploaded here, exercise 08, that shall be due on the 17th of April. Okay, because next week, 10th April, is Hari Raya, so there is no class. Okay, so today's class, there's an exercise, the very last exercise, optimization exercise, and then it's due on 17th of April. I think there's a mistake here. Okay, cannot be after log page. Yes, okay, so that is done. Okay, so, and because on 17th April, there is a conflict with AKI module for year 1, AR1102. So we are going to convert 17th April's lesson, which will be on Dynamo and Rhino inside Rabbit, into a pre-recorded videos. Okay, but for that particular class, there is no exercise, right? Because exercise is always due on the following week. Okay, so you will just need to watch the video and learn from the video by yourself. And then, in fact, the materials have already been uploaded here. Okay, in this PowerPoint, there is a video that would autoplay when you run it. Let me just show you what I mean. So you can play the video. So the video will autoplay within the PowerPoint slide itself. Okay, and you can also pause accordingly. Okay, similarly, for every single, you can see the mouse is changing. It's an embedded video within the PowerPoint. Okay, so all this material is already uploaded into Canvas. Okay, so all clear. 17 April, there is no physical class. The class has already been recorded and uploaded, so you can watch it at your own pace. Okay. However, on 17 April, there will still be an online consultation with your TAs. You will find out how to contact your TA between 1 to 2 p.m. on 17 April later in the tutorial session, because they may send you separate either MS Teams or Zoom or whatever platform that they want to arrange with their individual TA groups. Okay, so all clear, super clear. Huh? So for those who are not here, and for those who are here, please spread the word to those that are not here, so that we don't have any confused people on 17 April. Okay, and then all of you can also attend the 1102 accordingly. Okay. So for today's lesson, we will start now. It's on optimization. Okay. So what we will do is we will start off the morning with a dry portion first. Okay, like a lecture thing. And then after that, we will break for you all to get your coffee. And then we will come back and do two variations of optimization solver. One is Galapagos, which comes with your Rhino Grasshopper. The second one is Oppossum, okay, which you have to download and install, which we told you 2 weeks ago to install. But knowing students, some of you may not have already installed. So that's why we have this lecture portion so that you all can install while I'm talking. Okay, if you don't know what I'm saying still, I will tell you that it's from here. Look for Rhino under Oppossum. Okay, this one. So if you all have not installed it already, please install this plugin for Rhino Grasshopper. But while I'm going through with the dry portion, the lecture portion. Okay. Okay, so today's class is on optimization. So you can see as we go along this class, right? Some of you who already know Rhino Grasshopper will feel a bit impatient, but we try to pace it, right? So now we are building up almost to the end, where you will be able to use whatever algorithms that you have created. Algorithms meaning your recipe for design, right? It could be a building or it could be for like a landscape design. And what we want to share with you is that after you have created this so-called recipe in terms of the parametric design, as long as you give it quantitative values, we can use optimization to evaluate and get the best possible result within the shortest time. Okay, why is this useful? Because essentially, to put it very bluntly, right? Next time when you all go out to work in the industry, we are always working against time, right? There's always a timeline in which you want to complete your architecture or your landscape architecture projects. And as opposed to doing it in the conventional way, where you just design, you model your design in 3D, or sometimes you just sketch. If you are able to create, like again, what I was trying to say, a recipe, right? A parametric design algorithm, and you can create evaluation, as you can see here, the performance criteria. So for example, if it's a building, you can evaluate the internal natural daylight illumination versus like for landscape architecture, you can evaluate, for example, the ratio of water versus the green. Then you get the sweet spot. You will have the computer, which is in this case, Rhino Grasshopper with Galapagos or Oppossum, to optimize the solution for you. So instead of you going through like option A, B, C manually by yourself, you model ready and then you check and see whether these are the best solutions to your intended design. The computer with your
Bluetooth mode
definition will automatically tell you which one is the best result. Right? You just set up the system and the computer will come back to you on that. Okay? That is precisely why we want to share with you this workflow so that you are aware and then you can implement this, be it for your studio or in future in your work. Okay, so in terms of the dry portion, right, optimization is identifying the best element from a set of alternatives in terms of a specified criterion. Okay, this one sounds very boring. I can see someone's eyes closing already. But if you say this in the most colloquial way, it means that you try to get the best possible result in the shortest possible time. Okay. So, and for the optimization tools that we are going to share with you, right, there are a few. There is Oppossum, there is Goat, and Galapagos. They have different algorithms in the background running, and they perform differently according to different kinds of problems. Okay. And in terms of the types of optimization, there's two different kinds. Okay. In general, in the main breakdown. One is local optimization, and the other one is global optimization. Okay, again, this one sounds very complex, but we just want to have this out there because, again, like I go back to my explanation of how this course is run. There will always be students who are inclined to go in this direction academically, right? So they need, we want to share with them the technical terms. There are also students who are more from the industry point of view. So you may not want to know exactly how it works, but you, at least with this slide, you generally understand how the systems are set up so that you can apply them accordingly. So for local optimization, it means there's the localized start point. Later, there will be a diagram to show you how that works. And they are always powered by a mathematical equation. So in this sense, it's could be powered by a Powell's method. For global optimization, there will be multiple start points. So in the case of Galapagos, right, it could be a random start point, and it functions with an evolutionary algorithm. Okay, so this is influenced by Darwin's survival of the fittest. It essentially has a solution in which the solution will have a child, and the child will be close to that particular region of results, and then the child will keep having children and it will always be in this vicinity. That's what we mean by applying an evolutionary algorithm to it. And next, you also have a deterministic algorithm, right, which again uses another mathematical formula called the Lipschitzian, whereby the subregions of these random start points will be located first before it's applied. Okay, so this is what I meant by the diagram for local optimization. Okay, so just imagine, right, like from this diagram, this is a hill. Okay, we have a design algorithm that we have set up, and the end result, the best possible result, is at the peak of the hill. Okay, so there's many ways to climb up a hill, right? That could be you go by the path or you can go straight. What this diagram is trying to show you is for direct optimization, they will already fence this part of the hill for you so that you know how to climb up. Okay, and why you will ask, why is it a fence instead of like a path? Because you will never know what is the path until you climb up, correct? But in this case, we are using mathematical formulas to already identify which areas to fence up, whereby these possible paths can happen. Okay. So do you all roughly understand what this means now for local optimization? That's how we can get a best possible result within the shortest time. Okay. And later on, at the end of the day, we will realize that you may not get the best possible result. Okay. Take note of the sentence, best possible result within the shortest time. So it may not be the best result. Okay. Now we move on to global optimization. The global optimization, as I mentioned just now, is influenced by Darwin's evolutionary algorithm. So essentially, if you look at this diagram, instead of having this hill whereby you already have a fence to explore, what happens is that there will be a whole random start point of your general population. Okay, and then the general population, those that are more successful, right? They will have children, which will be the results in that region. Okay, otherwise they will not have children, right? Because they are not successful enough, not attractive enough. And then in the terms of optimization, they will not have, the algorithm will move on to another point to generate that result. Okay. And it's not only limited to genetic algorithm, like we have shown you just now, which is by parents and child, right? There's also other evolutionary algorithms that's based from nature, such as the particle swarm optimization. Okay? Like how locusts will be able to know and go from one farm after they finish destroying the crops there to the next farm. There is a very smart and embedded intelligence to their swarm intelligence that will allow them to go most efficient way to the next farm to feed. And yet they do not fly and hit each other. Okay, all those horror movies that you watch, right, of the locusts coming to you when they fly towards you, you will notice that actually by right, they will only fly past you, but they will never fly against each other. They will not collide against each other because they already have this embedded natural intelligence. And that's how these mathematicians here have observed the way that they fly and then derive a mathematical equation for this, which then be applied to use for optimization. Similarly, there's another simulated annealing algorithm which simulates how metal cools and warms. This is also embedded within Galapagos, which we will show you later on after the break. So genetic algorithm and simulated algorithm, we will show you with Galapagos. And then the next one is ant colony optimization, which is available within Oppossum. Okay. So ant colony optimization is interesting because any one of you can observe this, right? Because Singapore, we don't have locusts, right? But we have ants. So you just, when you go home, you just leave your sweets on your table. And eventually you will see like a very direct line of ants coming to that particular sweet thing. And if you are in, so the mechanics behind that is that the ants, essentially when they come out from their nest, right, they are just traveling, they seem to be traveling around randomly, but they are searching for food. And when they find a food, they will come back to their nest. As they come back to their nest, they will be rubbing their fronts onto the ground and leaving behind chemicals or hormones, which other ants that are randomly walking around will detect, and they will try to link up with this. As they link up, they will also leave their own chemicals and hormones on the ground. And eventually they will come up with a direct path. Okay, so what these three mathematicians have done is also again directly derive a mathematical equation from this and apply it to optimization. Okay, so now more towards the practical portions. There is a few optimization softwares. For example, Dynamo, Design Builder, and Grasshopper. Dynamo is what we are going to share with you next week, which I already said is uploaded in the video, so you can watch at your pace. Dynamo Optimo is introduced to all of you because 80 to 90% of the industry now is using Autodesk products, which includes Revit and Dynamo. So for Dynamo Optimo, there is two optimization algorithms called the NSDA2. It's a Pareto-based optimization. This one I will explain later very quickly because it's a bit dry. But essentially, what you can achieve is a multi-objective algorithm. We will come to multi-objective algorithm later on. Design Builder is the same as Dynamo. It also has multi-objective as well as genetic algorithm. And same thing, it's powered by the same NSGA2 algorithm. Okay. People who use this are primarily engineers, and they will use this to calculate the aircon and to optimize flow of air as well as computational fluid dynamics. And lastly, we come to Grasshopper. So Grasshopper now is quite a popular platform industry-wide, and not just architecture, but for landscape architecture, for jewelry design, for industrial design as well. And there are 5 plugins that are free to use: Galapagos and Oppossum, which we are going to share with you after the break. And of course, there's Goat, Silvereye, and Octopus. Okay, I will come to a brief introduction to all 5 of these in the next few slides. Galapagos is single objective. Okay, Oppossum is multi-objective. Okay, so for example, you can have an objective whereby you want to, in your design algorithm, to optimize, like I mentioned, the natural daylighting for interior space. Okay, but maybe sometimes you want to balance that off. You may not only want to have the best daylighting solution. You will also want to optimize the amount of heat that you're allowing into your internal spaces, right? And it's actually what do you call it? 2 conflicting things. In order to have good natural daylight, you need to allow sunlight in. But if you allow too much sunlight in, then you will be wasting a lot of energy to cool the space, right? So that's where multi-objective algorithms come in, so that you can calibrate both of these objectives. And that's why you will see Oppossum and Octopus come into play, because you can connect multiple objectives to this. Okay. For Goat and Silvereye, they are single objective. So now we share with you again about Galapagos. So for Galapagos, it's an evolutionary algorithm using GA. The pros of this is that it's flexible and easily applied to any problem because it's already included inside of your Grasshopper installation. So you can just quickly apply to any solution. It is progressive, which means that at any point of time, you can stop it and it will give you the best possible solution within the time that you stopped. Okay. The con is that it's relatively slower and it does not guarantee a correct solution. What do I mean by that? So essentially, if you go back to the hue diagram just now, right? You will have people starting off at random points at the base of the hue. So whenever you start off at a random place, that may be a bad solution, correct? And the computer wastes time to try to calculate from that particular point. And also because it's random, it may not have the best solution because it may be spending most of the time in wrong locations. Next up, we have Silver Eye, which is a single objective, but allows you to choose different kind of algorithms. For example, the particle swarm. And we have Goat, which uses direct optimization. We have Oppossum, which uses both single and multi-objective. We will come to that in detail later on. And then lastly, we have Octopus, which can be both single and multi-objective. And it allows an evaluation of the candidate solutions graphically as well. So the key thing that we should take away is to be able to determine your fitness function. Okay? Which means that you try to quantify what you want to optimize in a minimal or maximal function. For example, it could be to minimize the structural deflection. That is one of the examples that we'll be sharing with you after the break. Or do you want to maximize the illumination in your design? Okay, all of these values you can use, for example, Karamba to calculate deflection, or you can use Ladybug to calculate the amount of solar irradiation that comes into that particular surface. In terms of the technical sense, we will show you how to connect the sliders. Essentially, what you need to do is to connect your sliders that control your design algorithm to the optimization component. So in this case, this is Galapagos, right? So you drag from your genome input to the sliders. Okay, and then again from your fitness function, which is your whatever they're trying to optimize for the example later on, that will be your structural deflection. Okay. These are notes that we will come into detail after the break, but we will not go too much into detail because essentially you have to try and adjust for different kinds of design algorithms. Later, I will briefly explain to you. When you first start Galapagos, you will see that there are two options here. This is where you can choose what kind of solver you want, genetic or the simulated annealing. The next one will be where you can start or stop the solver. And these are the other display options. Over here, you can click on the result. This is the end result of your optimization. And when you click on it here in Galapagos, it should show up in your Rhino viewport as well as Grasshopper slider viewport. This is an option for simulated annealing. And yes, that is the dry portion. Okay. So just so that before we break, I just want to show you all the file that you can download from Canvas, which is available here. Structural optimization. You will notice that this builds upon what we have learned last week. Okay. So what happens here is there's a whole lot of Grasshopper components here. What is more important is this part where you have Galapagos and then you have a fitness function. In this case, this is our maximum displacement. Okay, so this value is around 1.274 mm. And this is connected to the fitness function. All the rest here are connected to the sliders here, which control the length of the structure. So this controls the length of the structure. Let me zoom out. So the length of the structure, the subdivision, and of course, the height of the structure. Okay. To simplify, what I have done is only to control the length of the height of the structure. So as opposed to you manually modeling all of this and then testing it with Karamba, what happens is that if you connect this to an optimization algorithm, and I want to minimize, and I just start with this. You can see here that on the left part, the computer is automatic values in those sliders that I was doing just now. I was dragging and pulling, right? I just done them in a random way. Remember, if you notice, just now it was big, long, and then it became short, then it became medium, and then it became long, and then it became short again. All of this is the computer doing random start points that you see here in Galapagos until it tries to find the best solution. You will notice now that it has found the best solution because it is short and also not deep. That makes sense, right? Because you just try to compress it as much so that there's no more deflection. The longer it is, the more deflection there is. But you will realize that that is something that we can achieve with a human sense, right? But sometimes when we want to do more complex solution, which we cannot derive this solution, the computer can help us do it. We can set up the system, and then you can go for a break, or you can also go home and sleep, come back tomorrow morning in the office, and then you'll have the result for you. Right? You don't have to manually do this one by one. So that's the benefit. But if you think about it from another point, now even as we are talking, the computer is still trying to get and verify the result. Right? It doesn't know as of now that this is the best solution, even though us as humans, we know this is the best solution. the computer is still trying out other variations of this. So why do I want to show you this? Because you have to understand that not everything requires you to go to set up an optimization algorithm, right? Simple things that you already know the answer, you don't need to do this. Have multiple complicated variations, then it makes a compelling conviction to set up this system to derive the correct solution. Okay, so I'm just going to stop the solver now. Okay, so now it's stopped. And what we can do is, as I click on each of these, it will show me the different solutions. Okay, and this will be the 8.797. I can click on reinstate, and you can see that this is the variation where it has a 8mm deflection, because it's right at the bottom of the end result. If I click on this on top and I reinstate, this is the shortest solution, and of course with the smallest amount of deflection, 0.02 mm deflection. Okay. Sometimes you may not necessarily want to get the best possible result for your design algorithm, especially when we come to think about it from an architectural or landscape architectural point of view. Because you also want to balance the aesthetics, right? Even though it may be the best and most efficient structure, according to the engineers, we may want to choose something that's in between, right? Something that looks like this, because it looks more symmetrical, looks more proportional, and it doesn't compromise on our ceiling height, so on and so forth. Okay, so all clear on optimization, what we mean by optimization, why we want to know that there is this workflow called optimization. When you have complex algorithms that results in multiple variations, this workflow allows you to automate the generation of that, evaluate that, and give you the best possible result within the shortest amount of time. Okay, so now what we will do is we will have any questions? No questions? Okay, so we will break till 10. Those who have not installed Oppossum, please install Oppossum. Or if you have any difficulty installing, then you can come down to the front to the TAs so that they can help you troubleshoot. But it should be quite a no-brainer, very easy. Just double-click and install. And later on, you just key in the licenses, which are also inside the CSV file. So the CSV file is located here. So for example, Eslyn Wong, right? This is your email address that you have to key in. And then this is your license. Okay, let me just color this up. Okay, this will happen every time you start Oppossum for the very first time. Because when you double click, it will ask you, I already have a license, but when you double click on Oppossum, it will prompt you to input your email as well as your license number. Okay, so in this list, there's everyone's name, just search for your own name. You can Control F if you don't know already, right? For example, your name has Zhi. Yeah, then you can search. So Ku Zhi Luo, just put in your email here, and then this one will be your license. Okay, so locate your own license and then set up your opossum. Okay, so we will start again at 10. I will run through a very simple grasshopper Galapagos multiplication example, and then after that, do it in opossum as well. Okay. Mm. Who is that person? Natalie. Natalie Sim. So this one should be the email. And this one should be the password. Okay, for those who still cannot get it, there's a backup plan. Okay, the backup plan is here. Oops, here, sorry. So I'm going to put it in the chat. Okay, so this should work for sure because it comes from the developer. Everything came from the developers of the app. Okay. So Natalie Sim, does your license work now? Where is Natalie Sim? Nettlesing KE. Does this work now? Anyone else have licensing issue? No? Okay, work, right? Okay. Chua Jianing request for license for my. So probably Chua Jianing is not in Canvas. Really? I took all of the, oops. I took it from the course roster. What's her name? Sharika Chua Jianing. Sharika. Should have, ma. Sharika Chua Jianing. Okay, let's see. Yeah, have. Sharika Chua Jianing. It is there. I'm not in school today. What is that to do with in school? You have to use your license. Never ask me to key in the license. No, it's Oppossum. So, Sharika, you have to double click here, and then they will have this screen that comes up. The screen that comes up should look like this. Okay, I will make this even more idiot-proof. So, this one is here, and this one is here. After you have searched for your name. It's okay. I can enjoy my bubble tea. Everybody should please try to fix your license. So if you have not already, please download this Grasshopper file. So I presume everybody fixed it already, yeah? Okay, yes. Good job. So now what we want to do is we're going to do a very simple example. Okay, so just go to Grasshopper. You don't need to open any other Rhino file. Okay, I'm just going to open this up. So we're going to create a slider. Okay, from 1 to 10. One smaller than 10. Okay, enter. And you have your slider. Okay, and then you copy and paste 2 more times. Control C, Control V. And I'm going to rename this slider. I'm going to call this A. I'm going to call it B and C. Okay. By now, you all should be comfortable with renaming. Just right click and rename it as A, B, and C. Okay. So I will pause here till everybody has it. Everybody should have a slider from 1 to 10. Okay, everybody has. So now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply. So type multiplication. Okay. So zoom in. You can add a plus here. Okay. When you add a plus here, ABC. The stars have aligned. So you connect now. Okay. A, B, and C. Okay. We're just going to have a very simple test of optimization. This is just to make it super simple for you all to understand. What does it mean by optimization? So we have 3 variables. Okay. The 3 variables are 3 numbers, 3 sets of numbers from 1 to 10. And then we want to have the minimal number of the multiplication of these three numbers, or the maximum number of the multiplication of these three numbers. Right? So from the human logic, it's very clear to us. The minimum number will be 1. Right? Because the smallest of each set is 1. So 1 times 1 times 1 is equal to 1. That's the smallest possible number. The maximum number shall be 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1000. So it's very clear to us, right? But it's not so clear to an optimization algorithm. So don't mix this up with AI. Okay, this is not AI. Optimization is using a set of mathematical formulas depending on what kind of optimization algorithm that you have chose to get the best possible result within the shortest amount of time for that particular optimization algorithm, for that particular equation. Okay, so it does not have any intelligence. It does not take in any value that you have given it before, right? Like those are LLM, large language models, and then derive an intelligence to it. It does not. It just takes a formula and apply it to your fitness landscape. Fitness landscape means all possible values of this. Okay, so that means my fitness landscape in this context of this question that we're asking the computer is from 1 to 1000. Are you all clear? So when I draw that diagram again, remember we had that diagram? Where we had a nice green hue. This is the hue, right? Maybe I make the hue bigger. Okay. Oh, okay. In fact, I can just sketch here. Okay. I have the hue, remember? And then okay, this is the hue. And then I have the human. And then I have the flag. Okay. So presuming the best answer is here, right on top of the hue. Remember from the sketch? So the entire hue, the starting points here, all these starting points, it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, ranges from 1 to 1000. Okay, all of this hue here, the results here are 1 to 1000. And of course, now we know, right, for this particular example, the best result is 1000. You could start off at here at 1 for A, and then maybe B, this is 1, and then C, this is 1. Okay, or here A is 50. Sorry, A is this one, A will be 5, B is 5, it's halfway, and C is 5. For the end result of times 10 times 10 times 10 equals to 1000. Okay, all clear from this example? Right, so you all must understand this as a basic principle first. Once you understand this basic principle, you can apply it to any design algorithm for building, for landscape, for geography, for computer science also. Clear, right? Okay. So now we are going to get, to make it simple, I'll just create a number container, right? It will contain all these numbers. I will have a panel to show the output. Okay, so 1 times 1 times 1 equals to 1. I drag it up here. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1000. Okay, 10 times 10 times 10 is 1000. I'm going to put it down again. Okay, and you see these values will update itself in the panel. Okay, this is the output. Okay, so now we are going to use Galapagos. If you have successfully installed your Oppossum, you will see Oppossum right below Galapagos under Utilities. Okay, or we can also simply just double click and type Galapagos. Okay. So the difference between this and other Grasshopper algorithms is that instead of you dragging to here, from here to here, left to right, you have to drag from journal to the slider. Okay, so here, and then if you want to have multiple, you have to hold on to Shift on your keyboard. Okay, so when you do this, then Galapagos will know that these three are your inputs. And now the fitness is this. Okay, this is the end result of whatever that you want to test, which in this case is just a multiplication algorithm. Now you double click. And you can see here that you can maximize or minimize the fitness. So in this case, we want to maximize. Okay, because just now I drew this sketch is to get the maximum possible value, right? 1000. So we will leave all this as the default. Later on, after the class, you can go and test. For example, you can also set the runtime limit to be maximum of maybe 1 hour. So next time when you go out to work, right, or even for your studio, you set up your design algorithm, then you go for lunch, you press this first, then you go for lunch, come back, then you have the best possible result within 1 hour. And then you can check from there. Okay. So this is the how you can use this. But other than that, let's just go for the solver. Use the default one. The first one is the evolutionary solver. And just simply click on Start Solver. And it will start generating for you. See, so the slider here is doing its stuff. And the values here are also updating itself. So this is a very simplified version just to show you how the mechanics of this system works. Okay, so again, to repeat to you, as what we have done before the break for a practical application in terms of design for a structure. This one is just a simple calculation of values from 1 to 10, 3 of them, and what is the multiplication result. As humans, we already know it should be 1000, right? But to the computer, without AI, just using optimization, it does not know. So that's because there's no background to it. To it is to itself, right? If I were to just dumb down as an analogy to you, what the computer will presume is this hue here. It will know in the slider, firstly, it will look at your slider and know that there are 3 sliders and know that each of the slider is from 1 is to 10. It will determine its own fitness landscape, which will be from 1 to 1000, which is what our hue is now. Okay, by now it has already stopped. It took 55 seconds to get this result. Okay, so this whole green thing is the fitness landscape. It combines values all the way from 1 to 1000. Okay, and it's trying to get the best possible maximum answer within the shortest amount of time, which it took 55 seconds for. For you to use this as a designer, right? Because this may not be just numbers. In future, like what I showed you just now for the structural example, you can always click on this particular value, right? Click on reinstate, and you can visualize, okay, how does this look like in the Rhino viewport? And then you will know how it performs according to the quantitative assessment that you want to have for it. Okay, so you all get it now. Okay, so we can always just go back. If you go back to the options, okay, now I want to try to minimize. So I can click on this negative button and you will go to minimize. Go to the solver again, and then you press play to start the solver. So you see, it's the same thing. It's starting to do all these values again. What you see here on the left, right? This is the evolutionary algorithm. So if you imagine this square of grid as the fitness landscape, right? Wherever that they have clumping is where you will have good results. And where you do not have clumping, it will be the not good results. So the not good results, it will not have any children, so it does not clump and create another value. It's actually what it means by applying a genetic algorithm to it. So you can see here that it has already reached the best possible answer 1. Oh, now this one takes faster, 50 seconds. If you all have time, right, you will realize that if you keep pressing play, you will have different computation results every time you run it. Sometimes it will take 50 seconds, sometimes it will take 45 seconds, sometimes it will take 55 seconds. Why? Because essentially, Galapagos is a genetic algorithm. So this genetic algorithm is random. So the randomness will result in different amount of timings. So a particular question will let it have different results as well as different amount of time to get to the result. Okay. So do you all have any questions as of now? Do you all understand this diagram and this simple example? Okay, let me check online. all clear? Because I'm asking now, so I wouldn't have any questions on how to apply this to your exercise. Okay, I'm just going to open the exercise. Okay, so your exercise will be due on 17 April. Okay, and then you need to set up for a single objective and for multiple objectives. We will come to that later on when I show you the opossum. So you will perform and log optimization result for Galapagos and Oppossum, and then you have a comparison. Okay. So this comparison, you can present this to your TA. It's up to you. The TAs will have their own discussion with you on how to represent this on the 17th. There could be a couple of ways. It could be just done online via MS Teams, or same thing, you could even sketch here. You can create a scribble and then you can analyze like comparison between result optimization fitness objective 1 versus 2, right? And then you can type whatever you want inside the Grasshopper definition, and our TA can also look at it. Okay, so there's many options in which you can represent your optimization problem. Just make sure that your file size is not too big. Okay, especially if your definition requires a Rhino file for the surface or whatever that you want to run the optimization for. Okay, so for those that are cross-fact that do not have architectural or landscape architectural problem, you can feel free to discuss with the TAs on how you can apply it to your own faculty. Okay. Which is what you should do later after this class. Okay, so all clear on the exercise? All clear? So you're supposed to have two, both Galapagos as well as Oppossum, which I will also show you using this very simple example. Okay. So now what we're going to do, move on, if there are no questions, is to Oppossum. You can reach it from here, or you can also just double click and type Oppossum. Okay. So this has a variable and a simulator and an objective. Okay. We will just keep it to the simple portions first. So we just use the variables. So same thing as what we have done for Galapagos. Go from variables to the slider here. We want to shift so that you can have multiple variables. Okay. So I'm just going to move this up. And this one is my Oppossum one. Okay. So my fitness will also be the end result of the multiplication. Okay. Now you just double click. For those who are opening it for the very first time, you will see the thing that I showed you just now. Just need to key in your license and your email. Okay. It's similar in terms of the interface with Galapagos but they have simplified it by a lot. So just minimize and maximize, and you can choose your algorithm. Okay, RBF, op, CMAES, and CMAES from start point. Okay, I will not go into the technicalities because it's more mathematical than design-wise. But like I repeated just now, different algorithms function for different questions. You will just need to test them out, and then you will find which ones perform the best. So now let's try to maximize. Okay. The rest of this you can leave it as the default. Essentially, it's the same thing about how much time you want to spend on it in terms of seconds, and whether you want to limit the amount of iterations. Iterations meaning that the amount of results from the multiplication of each of these three values. Okay, so I'm just going back to the results, and then let me just do it like that. So maximize, RBF op, and then just click on start. So you can see here the significant difference between Oppossum and Galapagos. Do you realize? After 13 iterations, it already knows that the best possible result is 1000. Okay, why is that so? So it comes back to my lecture just now. RBF op is a black box optimization. It's similar to the diagram that I showed, somewhat similar of this fence. But instead of a fence that is done with a direct optimization, which means it's a rectangle within a rectangle, it fences it in an even more defined way. So what this particular algorithm does, same thing. It understands the fitness landscape, which is from 1 to 1000. Then mathematically, it will create its own fence. And that fence will not be as simple as that one that you saw if it's for direct. It will be more nuanced according to the mathematical principle. So maybe it will be something like this as an analogy. Okay, this versus direct. Direct simply quadrants it up, but RBF op will already take 1:1 to 1000 and draw a very specific fence. That's why it just took 13 iterations. So it will calculate within here 13 times, and then it will get to this end result. Yes, it just does it 13 times because it already knows that this is the best possible within this region from the mathematical equation that is applied behind RBF op. Okay, so I'm going to save and close now. And what I want to show you, and why I also want to share with you Oppossum, is the cool thing about Oppossum is that there is also this performance explorer. this one over here, this button. You can click on it and you can visualize your results. So this one you can connect from left to right. After you have done this, just double click. It will ask you to save the Grasshopper document. Why? Because when it's a very complex multi-objective, no, this one only was a single objective, but when it's a very complex algorithm, then Grasshopper will hang. So this is a safeguard to that. So I'm just going to save. Okay, then I double click. And then you will see this is the fitness landscape. Okay. Some of you who watch football, soccer, they will have the soccer player. They have this graph, right? Or he can pass very well, he can score very well, whatever. Yeah, like play FIFA, he has this thing, right? But this is so somewhat similar. It's just showing you the fitness landscape of A, value A, B, and C. Okay, and at any point of time, you can zoom in to a particular portion. So in this case, the 13 values are all these plots. And it has very quickly zoomed in from this original triangle. It's not even a triangle, it's like a one, two, pentagon. Okay. To this set of values, and then to the final value here. So in this case, because it's maximizing, it starts from 1, value of 1 here, to 10. 1 to 10. 1 to 10. And with the mathematics, it's able to quickly set up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points here first. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is what I was trying to explain with this orange sketch. Then from there, it will take another of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 points. And then the last one is inside here. And the 13th iteration is just to double check. So you get it, you all roughly get what I mean already. Yes. You have to double click here. You have to save your document first. Okay. Save file, save your Grasshopper. Connect from here to here. And this button, you get it from here, the Performance Explorer. Or you can just double click and type Performance Explorer and just connect. So after you have connected it, just double click and it will run in the background first, the visualization, and then this will show up. And you can see here, you can click on it at any point of time to see what are the performance of it. Nobody can open. Really? Okay. Do you all have this? And when you double click, it has this. And when you save and close, do you save and close? Or do you close? Okay, I redo from scratch. Okay, I delete this. I use this opossum, put it down. I will connect the variables. Hold on to shift. Okay, and then again this one to this objective. Double click here. So now let's try minimize. Okay, instead of maximize, I will start. Okay, it will calculate. So this is also a good example because it's dumb, right? It's not AI, right? Now it's taking 100 over iterations. Because technically, by right, there is 1,000 possible values. 10 times 10 times 10. Okay. So if you're impatient, you can stop. So optimization stopped by user, best value 1, click OK. And then you save and close. Then after that, you use the Performance Explorer, click on here, put here, connect this, and then double click. Okay. Let me save this, and then I will close. Probably this is what happens to your. I'll close this. Now open again. The Fitness Landscape Performance Explorer will only show up if the iterations have all been completed. So we have to patiently wait. Otherwise, you will not be able to generate the screen that's now. Okay, so this may take some time. I'm just going to close it first. I just want to show you one last thing before we have the tutorial session. Okay, in this case, right? Okay, let me just separate Galapagos and Oppossum. For Galapagos, if say for example, let me just fictionally copy and paste this. So I have multiple objectives. Okay, maybe this one I will delete this, and I will call this addition. So I'll add all these values together instead. And this is my other objective. So in real life, this could be like for landscape architecture, you calculate the number of trees versus the number of shading from the trees, right? And then in Galapagos, you cannot add another objective. You see, when I go on to shift, it doesn't work. It will reset from this to become this. Okay, you see here? But for Oppossum, let me just set it to here also. You can have multiple variables. See here, I have multiple variables. And I can also have multiple objectives. Okay, so 2 objectives, 6 variables. Galapagos, you can also have 6 variables. You can have as many variables as you want. But it's only single objective. See, when I try to add another one, it will toggle to the next one. Okay, so that's the difference between a single objective algorithm versus a multi-objective algorithm. But just bear in mind, too many objectives will increase the computing time. Okay, HDB actually wanted to use this to optimize housing, but they realized that they have too many objectives already. For example, you have to balance. One of the key things is that views to substation. People don't like to stay next to a substation, so you have that objective. Then you have proximity to existing transportation nodes like bus stop, and then unhindered view from neighboring block. So many objectives already. This just by naming it as 3. And to influence their layout, it becomes a very complicated computing exercise. But if you go to the bigger firms, some of them have invested in some mini supercomputers. Okay, so this is a very real world application. A lot of firms or government bodies are already using optimization for planning and design. He never put the number module. Okay, so from here I can also optimize. I can start, and you will do the multiple iterations. And you will also realize, let me just stop this first. If you do it as a multi-objective optimization, you can see that Yeah, I have to close and double click again. You will have other kinds of optimization solvers. For example, NSGA2, which is used by Dynamo, and for example, nColony. We can just try with this, and you'll see that it has different results. And in fact, you can see here the calculation of the iterations is significantly faster than the previous one. It's in terms of units of 5. Okay, so the Performance Explorer is just for you to visualize, right? You do not need to have that for your exercise. Okay, you just need to complete the optimization with the use of single and multiple objective. And I'm not forcing you all to all wait for the run to be completed. You can stop it at any point of time. But it's important to show that you know what is the end result that has been optimized by it. Okay, so you see here under the nColony optimization, after I stopped it at, say, it was like 1,000 iterations, the best possible result was 10,999,10,8. It's not the correct result, right, that we know as humans. It should be 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Okay, so always validate after an optimization algorithm has completed its run, because the mathematics of it has to be verified by you as the design algorithm creator. Okay, clear? So any more questions before we end? So this one, just to repeat for those who are here later, right? Today is the last physical lesson. There will be no more lesson. This lesson is already uploaded online via Canvas over here, right? The PowerPoint already has embedded videos that you can watch and learn Revit Dynamo. Okay, and for this class, that is on 17th of April, there is no physical class. You can learn it at your own pace from now until then. There is also no exercise. Okay, today's class will have an exercise here, which is this one that we just discussed, and the due date is 17th of April. However, that tutorial will be an online tutorial on the 17th of April from 1 to 2 p.m. Okay, the exact details of online will be between you and the TAs. Okay, it could be MS Team, it could be Zoom, or it could even just be, I don't know, WhatsApp call. Okay, you all will have your own internal arrangement with your TA, but it shall be at 1 to 2, because for first year students, there's a conflict in schedule for AR 1102. Okay, that's why we shifted it all to be online. Okay, clear? No questions? Any questions, violent objections, please raise now. I think all of you should be happy, because then you can just concentrate on your studio, right? Okay, so if no further questions, you all can all go to your tutorials now. Please make use of the last tutorial session with your TAs. And I shall stop the recording. I will upload this video as well.